Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final episode of Builders Brawlers. Let's not waste any time and let's get the fighting underway with our first match between Henry and Bayani. The one seed still in this, but after that last loss to it's looking a little bit iffy for the one seed, but they're all patched up and ready to go. They are the one seed for a reason and they're here to prove that they absolutely deserve it. But it's going to be a pretty tough ask against Bayani. After their first loss, Bayani has locked in and got a pretty nice win against Cheezer to get to this point. Let's see if they can make it past the one seed. It's going to be a tall ask, but they seem up for it.
3, 2, 1.
Well, here we go with the first fight of the final episode of Builders Brawlers, and already Bayani looking to get a hit to the front wedge of Henry, and already has taken off a chunk of the wedge. Henry looking to try and shove Bayani into the corner, maybe pin them and keep that vertical spinner from getting up to speed, causing more damage, but Bayani finds room to breathe and gets a nice shot to the side of Henry, and Henry looks to be stuck on something. Can see the wheels moving, and now it's driving. Okay, well, it seems like they've gotten off of whatever it was, and Henry's top panel has came loose. Bayani looking to keep the pressure going. Backs off. Henry looks for an angle to attack, but Bayani too fast. Gets away and gets a nice shot to the back of Henry again, ripping off a chunk. And Henry now doesn't seem to be moving. Has that shot killed Henry? Bayani getting back up to speed in case they need to go for another hit, and they do, and they rip off the top panel of Henry, and Henry actually is moving again. So Bayani seems to have kicked some life back into Henry, and now Henry looking to try and turn this fight around, and Bayani looking to rip off more chunks with that vertical spinner. I say that as it's currently stopped spinning, and now it's getting back up to speed. Henry once again looking for an angle to attack. Just kind of seems a little too slow to catch up to Bayani. Bayani seems to be slightly faster. And there's a decent shove from Henry, but Bayani still gets away. Can Bayani get one more good hit before the end of the fight? Looks like it's trying to, and Henry shoving them back towards the wall. Bayani getting back up to speed again. Trying to get one more good hit. Not quite able to. And Henry doing a good job shoving Bayani into the wall. That's the end of the first fight. Gonna be an interesting decision. Well, we had some very, very good hits from Bayani in this fight. It ripped off multiple chunks of Henry's side armor, ripped off their top panel at one point, managed to do some damage to the wedge, potentially did some damage to the internals. Henry did stop moving at one point in the fight. It's going to be a tough one to call, though. Henry did get some good control, shoved Bayani into the wall a few times, and did gum up the spinner quite a bit, so it's going to be a close decision, I feel.
The winner, by unanimous decision, is Bayani. Well done to Bayani, they upset the one seed, and will be facing the winner of our next match between Minor Threat and Zephyr. The reigning champion Minor Threat is still going strong, although we are seeing some gaps in its armor. But this should be their ideal opponent, right? Speaking of, Zephyr had a pretty decent win against W.A.R, so let's see if they can keep their shell on, unlike their match against and let's see if they can cause a major upset in the bracket.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
Now we have the reigning Pilot Series champion taking on Zephyr, and already Minor Threat with a box rush. Zephyr not able to get up to speed, and Minor Threat getting some good hammer shots in. That could potentially do some damage to the top of Zephyr. Although Zephyr is now getting up to speed, and Minor Threat just kind of sitting back and letting them do it. Minor Threat going for an engage, and oh! Zephyr has lost its shell! Well, I think Minor Threat letting Zephyr get up to speed was not a critical error after all, as Zephyr has been, well, crippled now. It's basically got half of its weight just dragging around on the floor. And Minor Threat, I guess those hammer shots at the very beginning may have actually done something to loosen that shell. And now Minor Threat looking to just get some more shots with the hammer and potentially even immobilize Zephyr if it can do enough damage or get it stuck on something. And Minor Threat just letting Zephyr do absolutely nothing. We did see Minor Threat's wedge actually get ripped off against Comedic Gentleman, but it seems like they have fixed it for this fight, and it has held up well to take that initial hit from Zephyr and actually just completely dismantle the weapon of Zephyr. And Zephyr stuck in the corner. Minor Threat potentially looking for a count out here. As Zephyr trying to move, Minor Threat just keeps boxing them into that corner. Maybe looking for another couple of hammer shots there. Cease is called. Very, very dominant performance from Minor Threat. Well, what a performance from Minor Threat in this fight. Immediately charged Zephyr, got some good hammer shots, and then let Zephyr destroy itself with its own spinner just getting ripped off on Minor Threat's wedge. That front end of Minor Threat really is sturdy to be able to handle that level of, impact and suffered basically no damage from it, and the rest of the fight was all Minor Threat. Got some good hammer shots, kept Zephyr in the corner for pretty much the entire fight. Minor Threat was the clear dominant robot in this fight.
Minor Threat sends Zephyr packing for the series and sets up a rematch with Bayani in our next fight.
3, 2, 1, activate.
And now we have a fight between Minor Threat and Bayani. And Bayani is not moving. Oh, there it goes. Minor Threat gets a nice shot to the back left corner of Bayani. And these two have actually fought before, earlier in the tournament. And Minor Threat got the better of Bayani in that fight. And so far, it looks like it's planning to do the same. I say as a massive chunk of Minor Threat's armor was ripped off by Bayani's spinner there. And Bayani looking to cause some more destruction. Potentially damage maybe even the hammer of Minor Threat, disable the weapon. And Bayani now looking to get up to speed and go for a nice engage at the front of Minor Threat. And gets a solid hit. Minor Threat gets a solid hammer shot, but loses the wedge. Well, it seems like Bayani did what Zephyr could not in the last round and ripped off Minor Threat's wedge, and now that's going to be a significant lack of defense for Minor Threat, as Bayani's spinner can now tear into the front of Minor Threat, potentially, like I said, damage the weapon. We're going to have to see if Bayani can land those solid spinner shots. They've struggled to do so before, but after removing the forks, it seems like it's actually helped them in the long run. And now Bayani looking to get a couple more good hits, but Minor Threat gets to the back of Bayani and actually gets some good hits with the hammer. And now Bayani is backing up, and Minor Threat was stuck on top of Bayani, but they separate now. Bayani looking to get maybe another couple good hits. Minor Threat getting some good hammer shots. It seems like quality versus quantity here. Minor Threat has a lot more hits throughout this fight, but Bayani's hits have done more damage. So this is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out with the judges. Both robots looking to get a couple of extra hits right before Cease is called. This is going to be a tough one to call. Minor Threat, more apparent damage, but it did get a lot of hammer hits. Could that turn the tide? Well, this was a very impressive performance from both robots. Bayani in getting the first very big initial damage, taking off part of Minor Threat's armor, and then ripping off the wedge. But Minor Threat did get quite a few good hammer shots onto Bayani, onto the back, onto the side, the front, pretty much everywhere. And Minor Threat, of course, didn't do as much apparent damage as Bayani did, but it definitely was no slouch with that hammer. It's going to be interesting to see how the judges call it. I'm not entirely sure if the hits from Minor Threat are going to outweigh the damage from Bayani, though.
The judges at Arena side have turned in a unanimous decision in favor of Bayani. Bayani's redemption run continues on strong, and they'll be facing the loser of our next match between he and Comedic Gentleman up in the winners bracket. Comedic Gentleman pulled up an upset in its last match against the reigning champion, and they're looking good to continue on, but he has proved that it can be a tough nut to crack. And that spinner looking pretty deadly, so let's see how it'll fare in the arena.
3, 2, 1, activate.
And now we have the number 2 seed of Comedic Gentleman, who is currently undefeated, going up against he, and already a massive hit. Some parts just got sent flying around the arena, and he not moving, and the spinner has been ripped off. Well, okay, and then the entire weapon assembly goes with it. Comedic Gentleman, with a lifter, has so far been one of the most destructive robots in this competition. It ripped off Minor Threat's wedge, and now it's just dismantled he and its entire weapon system. He, I think, had one of the scariest weapons in this fight, but in this tournament. But apparently, Comedic Gentleman has the correct response, which is just a lifter. And now it's going to be interesting to see, can he even do anything, really? I mean, Comedic Gentleman getting a nice lift and actually ripping off more parts of he there. Ripping off part of the side armor and one of the back wheels. And now getting some more good lifts at the back. Comedic Gentleman causing a lot more destruction than I think anyone imagined it would in this tournament. But it is to its benefit, as he has no way of defending itself. Its weapon is lying on the floor. It's dragging its weapon assembly around like a ball and chain. And Comedic Gentleman maybe looking for a knockout, trying to flip he over. It's getting quite a few good lifts here, and now actually grabbing onto he, and they might be stuck together. Comedic Gentleman trying to back away, and they are stuck.
Activate.
Well, the fight resumes with very few seconds on the clock. Comedic Gentleman spinning around. I think they know they've won this fight. Comedic Gentleman, very, very dominant performance. Well, this fight started with a very solid hit from he, getting a good amount of parts off of Comedic Gentleman, but then Comedic Gentleman just seemed to just dismantle he's weapon system entirely. And yeah, the spinner came off and the motor was just dragging on the ground for most of the fight, and there was really nothing he could do. Comedic Gentleman actually did rip off part of the side armor and one of the wheels as well. Almost flipped he over quite a few times. They did get stuck at one point, but that's not going to matter. I think we all kind of know who won this fight. It's the one that wasn't missing its primary weapon at the end of the fight.
The judges at Arena side have turned in a unanimous decision in favor of Comedic Gentleman. Well done to Comedic Gentleman. He gets bumped down into the losers bracket and will face Bayani. He has gotten their spinner setup repaired after their weird decapitation against Comedic Gentleman in that last match, and they should be firing on all cylinders for this. Same with Bayani. Them going without their long forks has been proving pretty good for their weapon reach, so let's see this classic horizontal versus vertical spinner.
3, 2, 1, activate.
And the fight for the final spot in the finals begins as both robots get up to speed, and a massive hit from both, but he and Bayani seem to get away from it with minimal damage, and he now looking to go on the offensive as Bayani is actually against the wall. Some parts shaved off there, and Bayani runs into the wall and actually loses a bit of its top armor. I wonder if that was doing part to the damage from he, but he drives into the wall now. That's probably not good for that big horizontal spinner. that we saw get ripped off by Comedic Gentleman. Luckily, they repaired it in time for this fight. And now he and Bayani going weapon to weapon, but he didn't have theirs up to speed, so any damage there, I think, was caused by Bayani. Bayani losing a bit more pieces there as it's kind of stuck against the wall, but he has lost the spinner yet again. I'll forget what I said about having it repaired in time for the fight. Clearly, that was being held on with some sticky tech and Gorilla Glue. It did not hold on there very well. And Bayani now is looking to cause a bit more damage, but he is not moving. Bayani moving minimally, but moving enough. And he counted out. Interesting to see. They went from doing all right in this fight to losing their spinner to being counted out. Unfortunate for he. Bayani moves on. Well, this was an interesting fight out of the gate. He and Bayani both up to speed, went for a very even initial charge, and Bayani kind of seemed to get stuck against that right side wall for most of the fight. And then he went to engage with Bayani, but seemed to just engage at the wrong time. It went for a hit on Bayani and ripped its own spinner off, and from there it really had no defense after that. And Bayani was able to get a couple of hits in, but at the end of the day, I think he got stuck on some debris and was counted out.
In what almost ended in a double countout, Bayani just managed to move enough in order to prevent that from happening to them, and they will move on to face Comedic Gentleman. If Bayani wins, we will have a rematch between the two. If Comedic Gentleman wins, it will win outright. It hasn't been an easy path for Comedic Gentleman taking out the champ and now facing another dangerous looking spinner, but they should be up to it as their extended lifter tip should give them the reach that they need in order to flip him over. Bayani's strategy, send it with reach, cause as much damage as it can, and be aggressive because I don't know how well it can control this match. Let's see it in the arena.
3, 2, 1, activate.
Well, here we go with the first and potentially final fight. It's all going to depend on if Comedic Gentleman can win this fight. So far, Comedic Gentleman looking for a lift opportunity, can't quite get it, and now seems to be having a little bit of issue with the lifter, and there gets a good lift. Almost flips Bayani over, but not quite. And Bayani yet to do any damage with that spinner. Looking to get it into play. Gets a little smack on the front of Comedic Gentleman, of course. Comedic Gentleman built very, very well. It's made to last and made to survive these fights. And Bayani backs off, looks to get back up to speed. Comedic Gentleman takes a hit to the side, but it's still going. Can't quite get a lift there on Bayani. And Bayani again looking for an angle here. Gets to the back of Comedic Gentleman. Gets a small hit on the back. Nothing too substantial yet. Another small lift by Comedic Gentleman. And now both robots back to back. Looking to try and shove each other. And they turn to face each other. And Comedic Gentleman loses a bit of the wedge there from Bayani's spinner. That might be the most significant damage that we've seen Bayani's spinner do so far to Comedic Gentleman. And now Comedic Gentleman and Bayani again back to back momentarily, looking again for a hit on the side maybe. Bayani, no, gets a hit on the back instead. Comedic Gentleman goes around trying to get to the side of Bayani, can't quite get any purchase there. And oh, there's a big hit. The top armor of Comedic Gentleman has been, well, now it's just been removed. That's a major hit. And Bayani now actually might be on top in this fight. Maybe gonna try and damage some internals. Can't quite do it before the fight is over. This is gonna be a tough judge's decision. If Comedic Gentleman wins, then they are the winner. If Bayani wins, then Comedic Gentleman has one more try. Well, what a fight between Comedic Gentleman and Bayani. Bayani put on a really good performance here. Comedic Gentleman did as well. very, very good fight. What you would expect to see from two finalists. Bayani did get some small hits with the spinner here and there, and Comedic Gentleman got some decent lifts, but then Bayani managed to rip off part of Comedic Gentleman's top armor, and it got some, I think, some more minor damage as well. But this is going to be a tough one to call. Bayani, of course, did the more obvious damage, and Comedic Gentleman got the more obvious control. Gonna be interesting to see who wins it.
We have a split decision. The winner is Bayani, so we will be having a rematch between the two. Just to remind all of you watching, Bayani has only lost one match, and Comedic Gentleman has only lost one match, so whoever wins this will become the Builders Brawlers Series 1 champion. Let's send it down to the arena one last time for Wolfie and the commentary for this championship match.
3, 2, 1, activate.
And here is what will be the final fight of Builders Brawlers, and already Bayani looking to get that spinner into play. Comedic Gentleman looking for some lifts, can't quite get it so far. And Comedic Gentleman repositions, Bayani chases, and there's a little bit off of, I think, Comedic Gentleman's lifter. No structural damage, hopefully, done to it, though. Bayani's spinner is pretty vicious if it gets the right hit, as we saw in the previous fight. And there's some parts ripped off, and Comedic Gentleman gets a lift, and Bayani now is actually seeming to be lifted up onto one of their own forks, and now it folds back the right way. So Bayani looked like they were in trouble there, but managed to get out of it. Another small lift from Comedic Gentleman. And Comedic Gentleman gets to the back of Bayani, looks for a lift, gets a small one. And Bayani now looking to try and get away, look for an angle to attack Comedic Gentleman from the side, but Comedic Gentleman again at the back of Bayani, trying to look for a lift, can't quite get it. And Bayani again looking to reposition, Comedic Gentleman pins them between the wall, but Bayani released, and Comedic Gentleman trying to get a lift, gets a decent one there. And that's another massive hit from Bayani's spinner, ripping off this time the left side top armor of Comedic Gentleman. Is that going to be enough for Bayani to win the judge's decision of this fight? The fight is winding down. Comedic Gentleman gets another decent lift. And Bayani maybe trying to get a few more decent hits with the spinner. Comedic Gentleman looking for a lift, maybe a last second flip. And Bayani trying to jam up the lifter. Cease is called. This is going to be a close final fight. Was the damage Bayani did enough? Or was it too little too late? Well, this was one hell of a slugfest. It started off with Bayani trying to get some good damage onto Comedic Gentleman. And this fight ended up going pretty similarly to how the first one did. Bayani and Comedic Gentleman got some small engages here and there, got some decent lifts, and some decent spinner shots. And again, Bayani managed to get a solid hit to the top armor of Comedic Gentleman and rip off an entire chunk of that armor. But this did happen later in the fight than the first fight that they had, and Comedic Gentleman, I think, got more lifts and more significant lifts this fight, so it's definitely going to be a close one.
The judges at Arena Side have turned in a unanimous decision for the winner and champion of Builders Brawlers Series 1, Comedic Gentleman. Well done to Comedic Gentleman. It was not a perfect run, but they managed to stand tall above the rest and raise their lifter high, and raising that golden brick. Thank you all for watching. I'd also like to thank my dad for driving the bots, and Wolfie for doing the commentary. One last time, I've been that Builder Boy. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.